Today, we are going to look at Section 2, Network and Internet Technologies and Implications, Modules 2.3, E-Communications, and Modules 2.4, the Impact of Technology. Let's head on over to Module 2.3 and let's get started. All right, E-Communications. What are we going to look at? We're going to go through the introduction, the use of digital communication, such as email, social networking sites, blogs or vlogs, podcasts, wikis, GPS technology in digital communications, using the web efficiently, and then new trends and technologies. Let's start with the introduction. Electronic communication, also known as e-communication or digital communication, refers to all forms of communication via electronic means, the process by which computers and other communication devices, smartphones and tablets, are used to exchange messages and or digital data. Just take note that not all digital data is what we are seeing, or is what we can see. There is a lot that happens behind the scenes to keep the operating systems and the applications functioning properly. Let's have a look at some of the strengths and advantages of digital communications. It is easy to communicate digitally. You can connect and communicate easily and efficiently with many people anywhere in the world. They can be used wherever you are and on multiple devices. They are faster than conventional methods such as writing or posting a letter. They can save you money on travel, for example, video conferencing. They are cheaper than older forms of communication, such as traditional phone calls. They allow you to distribute your content to vast audiences. They allow multiple media types in a communication session. For example, you can talk, share video or pictures, much like I do in the lessons where I share my screen at the same time. And if I wanted to, I could attach a document for you to download on your side. They give you a record of your communications as opposed to a telephone conversation, which does not. Now, please note that the telephone conversations that they're talking about are the landlines, not the mobile phones. They still keep a record of that. Okay. Weaknesses, disadvantages, and limitations of digital communications. Efficient digital communications depend on internet coverage and internet speed. So if you're in an area with a weak coverage, your access to or your connectivity may be interrupted, slowed down, or hindered completely. They require other people to be connected digitally. So if you are sending a digital message, say for instance via one of the messaging platforms, and the other person is not connected to an internet connection, they will not receive that message. They require relatively expensive equipment, such as a computer or a smartphone. We all know how expensive those have become nowadays, as well as a good internet connection, which, again, if you want a strong, reliable, fast internet connection, that is going to cost you extra. They also have relatively high data costs in South Africa. Yes. Hardware and software compatibility problems may occur, as some software will only work on certain hardware. Some examples are the differences between Apple and Microsoft software and Android tablets and iOS devices. Again, this comes down to the operating systems and the compatibility of the applications within those operating systems. You'll see that when you go to download an operating system, a application, many times it'll ask you if you want to download for Windows, for Linux, or for Apple. Or sometimes they even have an Android version available. The effective use of digital communications depends on the skill and confidence of the user. So again, this takes a bit of time to familiarize yourself in the use of the application to be able to effectively uh, operate and function within that application to be able to send off the digital communications, such as getting to know YouTube or Facebook Messenger, Instagram, TikTok, or even the what you would call nowadays the old-fashioned email, which is still the most effective form of communication. Right, good practices when using digital communications. There are good practices that you should follow when using digital communications. Here are some suggestions. Keep time zones in mind. That is primarily for if you are communicating with somebody abroad and they are in a different time zone. To give you an example, um, South Africa and Namibia run on a GMT or a UCT time zone plus 2 hours. So if it's midnight on the GMT Greenwich Meridian, then it'll be 2 o'clock in the morning here by us. Similarly, if you go to the east coast of the US, that is 6 hours behind us. The west coast is 9 hours behind us. Australia generally can run between, I think it is 6 and 9 hours, or 9 and 12 hours ahead of us. So keeping time zones in mind is vital. It's easy to forget that the person you are communicating with is not necessarily just down the street, but may well be on the other side of the globe. Make sure that you check that what their local time is before trying to contact them. Keep differences in bandwidth, cost, speed, and cap in mind. So that's you would have to go and investigate by having a look at the different service providers, internet providers, known as ISPs, so it's Internet Service Provider, looking at the different packages and their availabilities, and then choosing the one that best suits your requirements. Not everyone has the same bandwidth as you, and it is good to remember this, especially if you have a fast, cheap connection. Sending large files or insisting on video chatting with people who have slow, expensive connections is inconsiderate. So, as many times in the lessons, if the connection seems to be sticking, we will go to switching off our videos to release some of that bandwidth so that we can communicate more effectively and get through the lessons. This aspect is changing though, as the cost of internet connections is coming down all the time and the speed is increasing. Right. Remember that digital communications are largely impersonal and faceless, except for video conferencing, and so communication can easily be misinterpreted. So we as people, as humans, rely heavily on cues, micro facial expressions, looking somebody's eyes and being able to tell the emotional state, things like that. With general messaging, whether it's text or audio, a lot of that is taken away. And even in video conferencing, if you cannot see the person's face or their body properly, you may miss some of the what they call the unspoken cues. Remember that you can't undo something you have said or typed. Don't react on an impulse and think before sending a message. Again, it's the same as what they say: think before you act. The same goes for yeah, messaging and things like that. The internet is a very public place. Be aware of posting personal details online and respect online privacy of others. Again, always use discretion when posting online, because once it's online, even if you delete it, it is still there. Somebody might have screen captured it or copied and posted on or reshared it already. So be very, very vigilant about what you post online. Uses of digital communications. Many of the examples below have been discussed in more detail in previous grades. In this section, different uses of some communication applications will be discussed. Right, we go to our good old faithful email. Email is the composing, sending, and receiving of messages electronically over a network, including the internet. Apart from making it possible to send and receive email messages, email software such as Gmail and Outlook have calendar, contact list, task lists, and um, archive features to help you be organized. The different options available depend on what is offered by the system in use. So let me go ahead and open up my email in the background quickly. And then once that's loaded, we'll briefly have a look at its different features that are available over there. All right, the calendar. In the calendar, you can set reminders about events, birthdays, or appointments. Calendars can be automatically synchronized with your smartphone or tablet, allowing you to access your schedule wherever you are. Calendars can be shared amongst members of groups, and reminders can be sent to all people attending an event or meeting. What is nice about the calendar and being able to send it out to everybody simultaneously is one, you're ensured that everybody receives the information, and two, it is time saving because you do not have to remind each person individually. All right, so let's quickly have a look at our um, email application. So I'm making use of, come on, of Outlook just to demonstrate. Again, so we have our standard email over here. We have our calendars that is linked to our emails. We have our contacts that we can put our individual contacts or our groups inside there. We can add in tasks and to-do lists, and we can get reminders for that along with follow-ups. And then we can also obviously add in additional apps to that to assist us with us completing what is required. So there is not only just Outlook and Gmail, there are other apps such as Slack and Asana that can also assist you with all of these functions. All right. Calendars, contacts, and reminders can be automatically synchronized so that they are available on your PC, mobile devices, and the web. This means that you are always up to date. For example, two or more people can use the same syncing system. So when one of them updates or adds new calendar events or contacts, the others automatically have the same data. Now, I'm not going to go into detail, but that is possible to do that through your Outlook calendar, where you can share your calendar with other people. Let's take, for instance, you've done really well and you become a director of business or a CEO or a high ranking manager. You can share your calendar with your assistant or your executive assistant so they can have access to it and schedule new appointments according to that and the availability without having to bother you constantly. Right, tasks. The tasks option allows users to add tasks to the to-do list to remind them of things they have to do. These tasks can be arranged according to their importance and can be emailed or printed depending on the application used. Once the tasks have been assigned a due date, a user can keep track of what's due next to sorting the tasks according to the due date. All right, so again, that'll have to go into a little bit more detail on how to set that up, but you can set it up for reminders to remind you a day before the time, an hour before the time uh, that a task needs to be completed. And you can also set it up that it shows you that a task is now overdue and that you need to look at it. A contact list, much like we have on our mobile devices, except that with email, instead of just saving their contact number, we primarily save their email address. So all email applications have an email book or contact list. This feature is where you store the email addresses and other contact details of the people you want to email. It can be configured to automatically add email addresses to the list when you use them, or you can add the email addresses manually or even import them from another application or email system. When preparing an email message, you can either choose an address from your contacts list or address book. You can type it or address book, or you can type it in manually. Email contacts can be organized into groups, distribution lists, so that you are able to send the same message to many people without having to add all the individual addresses. So this is great if you're sending out like an email, marketing email, for instance, to a list of people. So instead of sending it out 100 times, you can create a group and you can put all 100 email addresses inside there and then just create one email and it'll send it out to everybody. This is also great when you've got subscriptions, maybe to your blog, You can send out an email to all your subscriptions at once saying, hey, check out my latest blog over here. All right, archiving. Archiving lets you tidy up your inbox by moving messages from your inbox to an archive folder without deleting them. It's similar to moving something into a filing cabinet for safekeeping rather than placing it in a trash can. You can also think of archiving as moving unused items in a house, either to the basement or to the attic. You don't want to get rid of them because you might use them in the future, such as seasonal decorations, but it's not something that you're going to use on a regular basis. Again, archiving in emails could be an important email from one of the higher up managers in your business with regards to a policy. It's not something that you look at on a regular basis, but you might have to bring that email up again if requested. So then you would archive it just for safekeeping, and that also just to helps to keep your inbox um, clutter free. All right. Moving on to social networking sites. A social networking site is where individuals and organizations can post their likes, dislikes, interests, comments, photographs, and activities for their friends and virtually everyone else, unless access is blocked, to see and read. Most social networking sites also have apps for smartphones and tablets. Now, as we've seen, everybody's gone TikTok and Instagram crazy nowadays. So those are the two most popular sites at the moment. Then obviously there's the old Twitter, which is now X. There's Facebook, and there are a myriad of other social networking sites. And for the older generation, the older generation obviously still uses Facebook and that. Right, people, institutions, and companies use social networks to one, stay in touch and communicate with clients, friends, and family all over the world. To advertise and market products or services, to network with people with similar interests, to communicate news about an organization or club. Right. Examples of social network include Facebook, LinkedIn, which is more for the professional side, Twitter, which has its limits to the amount of characters that you can put in. So that's for quick little posts. It's now known as X. Pinterest, that was more for images, not used very much nowadays either. Instagram and Google Plus. Google Plus is also not used very much. Others include TikTok. Right, to say on the side, it is best practice to check the privacy settings regularly, as they may often change. So, one company that is quite famous for that is Facebook. They will just change the privacy settings at any time, and one day one functionality may work, and the next day it might not. So you'll have to go look at your privacy settings over there on a regular basis. Right. And it's more for just about having everything function properly, but it's also to be able to protect yourself from potential online threats, such as online stalking or online bullying. Right. Creating a Facebook profile. I'm pretty sure we all know how to do that. You go to facebook.com, you say sign up, you add in your personal details, your name, surname, date of birth, your gender, your email address, and then you create a password, and you generally add in a profile photo as well. Right, and then you can go ahead and you can manage your Facebook account by going to your settings. So settings can be used to change your username and password and the way you receive notifications, etc. Privacy are the most important features to use. Yeah, you can limit who can view your information, you can post to your wall, you can tag you in posts, as well as who can share your posts. So again, do you some due diligence and take an hour or two and go through your various um, social media apps and go have a look at their privacy settings and make sure that you are properly protected to your standard. All right. Moving on, something that has also become very popular over the previous years is blogs and vlogs, known as web blogs and video blogs. Right, web blogs or just plain blogs are websites that are updated often with news and events in chronological or sequential order. A blog reads like a journal with the most recent entry at the top. So you'll see that a lot of times when you go into a site, you can sign up for their newsletter, and they will have like a quick little discussion inside of their newsletter, and then they'll say, to read the full article or to read the full blog, follow this link. All right, and then it'll take you to the full text version of that topic and that article. A video blog, known as a vlog, is a form of blog which uses video as a medium. Entries on the vlog normally consist of video supported by text and images. So when you open up a vlog, you'll generally have the video, and then underneath that will be either a description or something like that, or a summary of the vlog, and maybe a couple still images that might be added to that. Blogs are used by people and organizations for different purposes. For example, sharing personal experiences, the so called online public diary of your daily activities. We've seen that become quite popular in today's day and age with social media, especially on TikTok. Citizen journalism. This is where an individual creates and runs a blog that carries news that he or she has written and links to articles that they think their audience will be interested in. So, citizen journalism is not a professional journalist writing about things. This is a private individual who has read a couple articles and is now basically giving you their opinion and some facts according to the articles that they've read, and then linking you to those articles for a more in-depth rundown of what is happening in that specific topic. All right. News blogs and sites. This is similar to a citizen journalism blog, except that it is run by an organization and has multiple authors. Both of these types of blog tend to specialize in specific topics. Example, a blog about rugby or photography or celebrity gossip. Their audience can be local if they only specialize in news specific to the local community, or it can be global if they write on topics that interest people everywhere. All right, so there is a slight difference between citizen journalism and news blog sites. So, news blog sites is generally a collaboration between multiple people. All right, corporate information blog sites. So, this tool allows a business to communicate with its customers, keeping them informed of, amongst other things, trends in the industry, developments in the business, and new product or updates to existing products. To give you an example, I make use of Divi software by Elegant Themes, and I get daily updates on new features that is available within the software that I now have access to. All right. Blogs are generally free to view. That does not mean that they do not earn money for the people who run them. People who earn their living as bloggers, and that's what you call somebody who writes blogs, do so by getting income from advertising or sponsorship. The amount of money that they earn depends on how many people view their site or click on the adverts of their site. So there could be pay per click option where people click on adverts inserted into the blog. There could be sponsorships where companies will sponsor a blogger. There could be affiliate marketing where a blogger could link to a product that they're selling on behalf of another company, or they could also have their own products and they could link you to an online store. All right. So that is some of the different ways in which they can still earn an income. Uh, yeah, right. Publishing to a blog. There are different blog providers or hosts available. These are websites that allow you to create an account, set up your blog, and host your blog. Options include WordPress, which is one of the most popular ones, um, hosting over 48% of all websites worldwide. There's Blogger, which is specifically for blogs. Wix is also another software that you can use to create blogs and websites, and Squarespace. There's also Typepad and Weebly. Now, some of these are easier to use, and some of them have a little bit more of a learning curve to be able to use. So again, you need to decide on the type of blog that you want, the front end of your site, because ultimately all the blogs go onto a website, and you need to be, or you need to determine how much work you're willing to put in, how steep of a learning curve that you want to go through to be able to do this, and then decide on the appropriate platform. So before you create your account, you must decide on the blog provider you are going to use. I can say quite comfortably that if you want a drag and drop option and you don't want to do much work, for the more basic of websites, then I would make use of Wix. If you want to go a little bit more into depths, in depth in that, you can make use of WordPress. There is third-party software that'll make it a little bit easier to navigate and to build your blog website, making use of WordPress. But again, the choice is entirely up to you. So create an account or sign up for a blog on the website of the blog provider. Some of these blog providers may charge a fee for hosting a blog, others are free. Now, please note that if you are going to take the free option, it will generally have your domain name dot whatever service provider you use, um, making use of dot com dot co dot za, whatever the um, domain ends on over there. So let's take, for instance, if you're making use of WordPress and their free option, you would have mydomain.wordpress.com, for instance. Whereas if you had your own domain, you're making use of a paid version, it would just be mydomain.com. Also, keep in mind that when you make use of the free versions, there is a significant restriction on space available to be able to upload. So as your blog grows, you may eventually have to consider going over to a paid version. Right. Decide on a name to be used as part of your blog's URL, your blog's address on the host's website, and make sure that it is easy to remember. For example, you might create your blog as cupcakes.blogspot.com. So there's an example of a free domain over there. Whereas if you had to purchase the domain cupcakes.com and then paste for the hosting space, that would remove the blogspot. Choose your theme and type your first post in the blog editor of the blog website. You can also type your blog posts in Word and then copy and paste them into your blog. Save the draft of the post. When you have completed the post, select publish. The document will then be posted on the blog. Right, so while you're typing it up and doing all your editing and everything, you can keep it in a draft form. And then the minute you hit publish, that becomes visible to everybody, depending on your privacy settings for the blogs and for your website. So your blogs might only be visible to those who have subscribed to you, for instance, or it might be visible for everybody to read, and you get you generate revenue by other means instead of subscriptions. All right, podcasts. A podcast is an audio file, often in an MP3 format, that is made available to download for free or to purchase from the internet. Podcasts can be downloaded individually, or you can subscribe to a series of podcasts so that each new episode is automatically downloaded. Podcasts can be produced by professionals or amateurs, so pretty much anybody can do that. And all you really need for a podcast is a good mic. Your built-in mics on your laptops are generally not sufficient for a podcast. So one of the things that would be recommended is a good mic if you're going to just do basic podcasts. If you're going to do video podcasts, then obviously you would like to get a decent camera with a stand, maybe some ring lighting, and a few extra things. All right, so podcasts can be produced by professionals or amateurs. A video podcast, a vodcast, includes video clips or photos. You can listen to a podcast and view a vodcast. On the right, they say a podcast can be regarded as a blog that you can listen to. Vodcast is a name that is not used much. It has been replaced by vlog. All right, so it's basically a video um, podcast, a vlog, similar to your vlogs over here. Your blogs and your vlogs, your video blogs, they use the same terminology for video podcasts. Right, podcasts, and in some cases, vodcasts can be used to download radio shows so that people can listen to them again, or if they missed the shows when they aired, for educational purposes by teachers and lecturers to provide tutorials, lectures, or lessons for their students. Students can also create podcasts for content creation in their subjects. For tourists and visitors in places of interest, such as museums, example, you can listen to a podcast as you move around the museum. Okay, so basically, podcasts started off as just audio, and as technology has evolved and people wanted more, they've now started creating video podcasts as well, known as vlogs or vodcasts. All right. Wikis. Now, we all know about Wikipedia. It's a form of a wiki. A wiki is a website that allows for the collaborative editing and creating of the content of web pages. The core idea of a wiki is that anyone can contribute to it, and the final published article does not belong to any one individual. Wikis take the form of a web page, and access to them is usually free. So back in up until the 90s, um, people were still buying Wikipedias. So you buy a set of encyclopedias. So you would still buy a set of encyclopedias, and it'd be a whole range going from A to Z. It could be anything from 12 to 20 plus books. They're generally quite thick and quite heavy. The only problem is that once the encyclopedia was printed, you couldn't go and change the information on there and you couldn't update it. The great thing with Wikipedia and with the internet is that anybody with sufficient knowledge can go and write into the Wikipedias or add to the Wikipedias on a specific subject, and it can be edited and reviewed by others. And that access is generally freely available to anybody else. So, taking the Wikipedia for example, no one person has gone and written all this information. The Wikipedia has been built up by millions of people across the world who have been pouring their knowledge into filling in the Wikipedia on a variety of topics. So, for example, wikis can be used for the following: creating company intranets. So, an intranet is the internal network of a company. Creating community websites. So, again, that would be information, let's say, in your neighborhood. You could have a community website, and part of the information that you put inside there is um, say information about the local park. It's facilities, activities available, rules, regulations, restrictions, recommendations. So you could create a wiki from that. Making checklists and lists of things to do in large projects that have a number of people working on them. So again, you could either do this onto a website or you can make use of the other applications that are available nowadays. So that's not used very often in that respect anymore. Creating reference sites like an encyclopedia, for example, the well known encyclopedia Wikipedia, as I mentioned earlier. Creating educational resources such as glossaries for subjects, study notes, and frequently asked questions guides. So that is also a form of a wiki. Basically, a wiki is where you can go and you can get information on a specific matter or subject. All right. And it comes in a variety of different forms. GPS technology in digital communications. We all know what GPS is. That is a global positioning system. All right. So GPS technology is being used more widely as more people are using smartphones, cameras, and other devices with GPS facilities. There are obvious potential disadvantages to your location being known, but there are also huge upsides to using this type of technology for both users and businesses alike. So, before GPS was put into smartphones and tablets and the likes, you used to get a GPS navigator called a TomTom that you used to use to be able to move around. And before GPS, you used to have to make use of um, printed map books, and you'd have to navigate through those. So if you want to have a little bit of fun, find out from your parents if they still have an old map book, and they must give you two destinations and see if you can navigate from one to the other without using GPS. Some businesses use GPS technology to allow their users, customers, to earn loyalty points. Businesses can provide special deals and discounts for loyal customers, frequent visitors. Businesses can also get immediate feedback as they are rated on the likes, dislikes, and ratings from previous check ins. There is also a fun element to it as users can earn virtual badges and can even become mayor of their favorite restaurant if they visit often enough. Now, I believe that this is more of a uh, American um, idea. It's not really something that you see in South Africa. This mobile marketing based on your GPS location has enormous possibilities for businesses. For example, businesses can send unique, targeted advertising to the customers as they enter the vicinity of their shop. All right, so that's for your franchises and things like that. Again, that is more of an American idea. That other uses for GPS is not only navigating the maps from point A to point B, but um, making use of location data on your photos, on your videos. So that becomes part of your metadata to say where you were, um, your location, generally in coordinates, or it might even give the town or city's name if you're in a town or city. And it can also help to um, show your position if you ever land up in getting into a situation where you might be injured or unable to get out of a location. Then others can make use of the GPS location tracking and track your location, um, making use of that software. Right. Using the web efficiently. A web browser is a software application that allows one to navigate, view, and interact with content on the web. For example, Firefox, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, the obsolete Internet Explorer, and there are others. Safari for Apple is another one. Right. In this section, we look at typical features of web browsers that can help you use the web more efficiently depending on the browser you are using. All right, let's have a look at the homepage settings. In all web browsers, you can set a default web page known as a homepage that opens when you load a web browser. This choice is entirely up to you. You could set the homepage to your school's webpage, to a search engine such as Google, or to your favorite website. So let's go have a look at this. So if we come in here and we go down to our settings, all right, and I come down to my default browser. Okay, let's just make that, sorry. Where is this, my appearance? No, is it? Sorry, let's just close that off. Um, I can choose my search engine. So I can change my search engine over there. I can change my appearance. So over here, show home button. At the moment, I've just got it set up as a new tab. So if I show you like this, it just automatically goes to a new tab. By default, it has Google inside there. Okay. Or I could specify a web page URL if I want to have it open on that on a regular basis. So let's say you're interested in Yahoo News. You could set it to go to Yahoo News over there. All right. So there's just an example of that. Right. Bookmarks or favorites. It is a good idea to keep a record of the sites that you find useful so that you're able to find them again. Again, with our browsing history nowadays, and because we spend so much time online, it is virtually impossible for us to remember every website that we visit and every website that catches our attention or that we might want to refer back to later, especially when doing research. So you would come up to your bookmarks over there. So in my Chrome, I've got all my bookmarks on the right hand side. So I can just click on that and I can open up the side panel and it'll bring up all my bookmarks over there. All right. And it's quite easy to bookmark a page nowadays. Generally, there is a little star at the top over there. So you can bookmark this page and then you can either bookmark it to a folder inside of your bookmarks, or you can create a new folder inside of your bookmarks and then store that URL inside of there. So the favorites or bookmarks option allows a user to store shortcuts to the web pages they frequently visit. All right, your history. The history option allows you to find the web pages you have previously visited. When you click the history option, it shows a list of sites you have visited. You can configure the length of time for which you would like to keep the history. So again, this will be over here, the three dots, and you'll come down to history, and then you'll choose from there onwards. All right. Pop-up blockers. All right. So at one stage, it was quite an issue that there were pop-ups popping everywhere every time you entered into a website. Most of the time, it was malicious software trying to get you to click on things so that it could install malware onto your devices. And we all started making use of third-party pop-up blockers. Now, generally, your browser will have a built-in pop-up blocker, and sometimes you can configure it depending on which one you're using, or you can make use of a third-party one. So a pop-up is a small web browser window that appears on top of the website you are viewing. They are usually created by advertisers and often open as soon as you visit a website. So not all pop-ups are bad. Sometimes when you enter a website and you're inside of it for 5 seconds or something like that, or you start to scroll, a little pop-up will come up onto your screen over the website saying, do you want to subscribe to our newsletter or sign up for deals or something like that? And then you add in your details and you subscribe or you submit, and then they have your name, surname, and your email address at the very least. Then they can start sending you emails from there. All right. So again, that is still an optional thing. If you don't want that, you can simply just close it. The level of blocking can be decided by the user and ranges from blocking all pop-up windows to allowing only those that you want. Pop-up blockers, if turned on, will give users a message asking them whether they want to allow pop-ups or not. So in Chrome, which I'm sure a lot of us use, if a pop-up is blocked, it'll generally bring a little message out on the side of here saying pop-up block, do you want to open it? And then you can just ignore it or you can decline it over there. Right. Some websites, such as banking sites, use pop-ups and therefore blocking all pop-ups might interfere with these features. You can add specific websites to a list of websites where pop-ups are allowed to make provisions for these features. So again, this is dependent on the software that you're using. There will be different ways in which to set that up. Basically, if you have blocked all pop-ups, you can white label a website, as they call it, to allow that website's pop-ups to still appear on your screen. So basically what you're doing is you're giving it permission. Right, blocking of websites. There are many reasons why a person would want to block a website. These reasons include wanting to avoid phishing websites and preventing targeting by spammers who use adware as well as pop-ups to attack your computer. Parents might want to prevent their children from having access to content such as gambling and pornography. There are different levels of internet filtering and blocking, depending on the web browser you use. You have to set the filters according to your needs. So not only inside of your web browser can that be done, but if you are tech savvy and you're an IT specialist, you can also block websites through the firewall. All right. So basically, what it means, the blocking of websites is even if, let's say, I've gone and blocked Facebook, and even if I go and I type in facebook.com, it's just going to come back up and going to go, this site is blocked on this device, and I'm not going to be able to access it. I will have to go to another device without those restrictions and access Facebook from there. All right. We've spoken about caching on your CPU, which basically stores information about applications, files, and folders locally for quicker accessing and opening. The same applies to websites. So, web browsers temporarily store web documents such as HTML pages and images on disk. This process is known as caching. Your uh, smart devices do exactly the same. So, if you were to go into your settings and you go into your apps and you click on an app and you go to your caching, you'll see that it's used up a little bit of your memory. And if you want to, you can always go and clear that. You can also clear your web browser caching, as it is just temporary files. It does not have any effect on the website itself. It just means that the next time that you open up a website, it may take a little bit longer to load, as it's now got to draw it from the internet back onto your device before it can open it up. Right. The reasons for caching are to reduce bandwidth usage and to allow previously visited web pages to load quicker. Because we have become so impatient and because our attention span has dropped so much with technology today, we want everything to be super fast. So caching helps with that. These pages will load quicker as they are loaded from your hard drive and not from the web. Also, when websites are designed, all right, you allow for caching of the website. So that means that it is served on saved on various servers all across the world to allow for quicker loading of your website. Right. So your website does not only exist on your host provider's server, it exists on multiple servers worldwide so that people can access it faster. Right. These pages will load quicker as a okay. The web page on disk may not be the latest version, and the refresh button may have to be clicked to display the latest information. Occasionally clearing your web browser cache frees up disk space and forces your web browser to display the latest version of the web page you are visiting. So again, clearing your caches on a regular basis is firstly a good thing because it frees up some space on your hard drive. And secondly, it ensures that it downloads the latest version of a web page onto your browser so that you can have the latest information from that page. Right. Browser plugins and add-ons extensions. So I'm currently in my Chrome browser and I can add in plugins such as a PDF plugin or an extension. I could have a video recording plugin that I could have added in. Let me see if I actually have any. I don't think I have any at the moment. Over here, I have an extension that I could install. I could install Google Drive there at the moment. It's asking me to do that. Um, but yes, so that's things that you put into your browser to simplify functionality while inside of the browser. So web pages sometimes contain specialized content. Example, a flash video, um, which doesn't really exist much anymore, but yes, video or PDF content. Web browsers were originally not able to display this proprietary content. The solution was to install a plugin, which were usually free to download from the internet. This is simply a third-party app that the browser can call on to display this specialized content. So for the newer browsers and things like that, I believe PDF has now become automatic. We don't need a third-party browser. You're currently viewing it on an online version of PDF, as you can see in the corner over there, and I have no plugin or extension that I have enabled. All right. The same as trying to watch a video online. In the past, you might have had to have a third-party video player installed onto your or into your browser. All right. So, for example, you would install the Flash Player plugin, so the content Flash videos on the web page could be displayed. As I said, but Flash videos don't really exist much more nowadays. Increasingly, browsers have the ability to display this specialized content without needing to have these plugin programs installed. This does vary from browser to browser and the version of the software you are using. All right. Typical browser plugins included the following: Adobe Flash, QuickTime. QuickTime was for calls, if I remember correctly. Microsoft Silverlight. Not sure, never used that. Microsoft Media Player plugin that says you could watch videos online, and Adobe Shockwave Player. These are all multimedia plugins which enable users to listen to music and view animations, videos, and other multimedia effects in a web browser. These plugins have similar functions, but different plugins are needed because different companies use their own formats and their own content. Browser add-ons or extensions are useful third-party apps that can be downloaded, often for free, to extend the functionality of a browser beyond browsing. These include translator utilities. So sometimes you'll see that you'll open up a web page in a foreign language, and Google will bring up the thing. Do you want to translate it to English or to one of the other local languages? Or do you want to leave it as is? And that is entirely your choice whether to make use of that translator utility. Ad blockers, although browsers have some ability to block advertising pop-ups, these specialized add-ons can even block those that appear in videos on YouTube. All right. Citation add-ons. These will extract the necessary information from a website so you can use it as a source when referencing content. Example, cite this for me. So great if you're doing a lot of work where you have to refer back to articles and authors and make use of citations. That would be a nice little plugin over there or add-on. Then video capturers. These can capture video content from a website and save it in a video format of your choice. Not very popular, don't get a lot of those nowadays. Most platforms have safeguards in place to prevent that from happening. All right, on the right hand side, they say this type of software can pose a risk as it has been known to include spyware, adware, etc. The best advice is to stick to ones that are widely used and recommended. And I'm not sure which one they're talking about over there, but it might be the video capturers. So it looks like the one that would probably have the most malware or spyware inside of it. All right, moving on to new trends and technologies. The most important trends in e-communication are the following. Before we read that, let's see on the side. They say the industry that develops apps for mobile devices has grown at a breathtaking pace. In the process, it has created a wide range of opportunities for people to develop apps for these devices. And now there's even software that allows you to develop your own apps and then pay a fee for it to be published. And then you can take that application and you can either use it in standard browsers or you can have it developed for Android or for the iOS. And then you can put it into the app stores. All right. So let's have a look at mobile connectivity, smartphones and tablets. People have access to the internet on devices that are small, that have a long battery life, well, depending on what you're doing on it. If you're watching video all day, not that long, and are instantly on. There, for example, there is no fussing delay. And when they're saying instantly on, they mean instantly and continuously connected to the internet. There is no need for a dial up every time. People carry these devices with them wherever they go. This means that connectivity is no longer limited to a specific place or time. The only limitation really there is your connectivity range. Are you within range of a signal? People with smartphones have many apps that they can use to access data and resources from the internet rather than using the more conventional tools such as browsers and search engines. So that's where all our apps come in to place to make our lives a lot more convenient. Right, always on connectivity. Nowadays, access to the internet is expected to be always on and always available. People are therefore using this type of communication technology as part of their daily lives. So you will switch on your internet access, or you can switch off your internet access on your phone, depending on whether or not you want to have access to the internet or not, and if you want to be bothered or not. Right. Increased bandwidth at a lower cost. So yes, bandwidth has increased, or the speed of bandwidth has increased significantly. There used to be GPRS, or otherwise known as 2G, so the second generation network. I think the first was Edge. Then we came up to 3G, which made our internet access speeds a lot faster. Then it was 4G, and the most recent is 5G internet connectivity, which is a very fast internet speed. But also it's very limited at the moment. It is not as popular yet and as widespread. Right, nowadays access to increased bandwidth at a lower cost. People can connect at faster speeds and lower costs than before due to the widespread installation of fiber connections. So fiber connections are also significantly faster than the traditional telephone line connections. It allows for a greater bandwidth. It allows for more information to flow between uh, various points, and it also allows for more information to be transferred at the same time. So the trend is for speed to increase and the cost to decrease, even in South Africa, where internet access is expensive when compared to other countries. This makes connectivity more affordable and increases the number of people who make use of the internet. All right, so fiber basically makes use of light to transport or to transfer information from one point to the next, and can go much further um, than your standard telephone wire connections. Right, but it is also significantly more expensive, but has the benefit of increased internet speed, which, just for a little bit of information, is measured in megabits per second, not megabytes, megabits per second. So you have a 2 megabits, 10 megabits, 25 megabit, and so on. Generally, up until about 100 megabits per second internet speed in South Africa and surroundings. Right, digitization of media. So, in the past, we used to rush off to the store once a week when the U magazine or the Haitian or the Sorry came out, or our favorite Go Fishing or favorite car magazine came out, or even every morning when the local newspaper came out. But as we've gone along, most of that media has now been digitized, means it's become electronic, and we can view it on our various devices. So, books, magazines, newspapers, music, movies, and even software packages are sold in digital downloadable formats. The old physical product distribution method is being replaced with digital content that can be streamed or downloaded. So, I've mentioned the books and the magazines and the newspapers. In the past, you used to have to buy cassettes or CDs to be able to listen to your music. Movies also came out on DVDs at one stage, or even before that was VHS. Um, and now we can simply just download the movies, and or we can stream them straight from home. We don't even have to get up go purchase anything in a store. We don't even have to go off to the cinemas anymore. We can do everything from home. All right, so that's the digitalization of media. Distributed processing and storage. Storage and processing power accessed through the internet may be spread across multiple servers in different data centers around the world. Cloud storage has become the norm, with people using services such as Google Drive, Apple iCloud, and Dropbox to store documents, photos, movies, etc. These trends should not be viewed in isolation. They combine to create a landscape where people can always access data and powerful computing resources no matter where they are, and they can do so at a reasonable cost and fast speeds. Talking about reasonable costs, a lot of service providers, or yeah, internet service providers, for example, MTC, Vodacom, Telcom, all of those guys now have uncapped data packages or data bundles. So the more data you use, the less it actually costs you per megabyte. And just keep in mind that when you do have an uncapped data bundle, there's what they call a fair usage cap. And for in most cases, that is around about 250 gigabytes per month. The internet service provider will reserve the right to limit your speed and your accessibility to the internet for the remainder of the month if you do exceed the reasonable use. So when you're going for one of those data packages, just keep in mind to read the terms and conditions and look at if there are any reasonable expectations of your usage there, and be respectful of those. Right, technologies are constantly being developed and refined to make connectivity faster and cheaper, whilst creating devices that use this connectivity in new and ingenious ways. So, to give you an example again with fiber, when it first came out, because it was such a niche product and it was new in the market and the technology was new, it was um, excessively expensive back then, even though it is more expensive than your traditional internet access. The prices have dropped significantly and the speeds have increased, making it a more affordable and um, a more preferred connection to the internet. All right. And that is that for that. Moving on, we are going down to, come on. Okay. We'll have to go back to that. We're going to stop there for this video, and I will see you in the next one.